Now, here is an interesting observation. People tend to become like the God they worship. People tend to become like the God that they worship. Now, in Psalm 115, you find a psalm that is dealing with the subject of idolatry. I grew up in Japan, and I saw idolatry every day of my life. It was everywhere, all across that land. The majority of Japanese people are idol worshipers. But according to Psalm 115 and verse 8, after exposing idolatry for what it truly is, the psalmist says this: "They that make them are like unto them, so is everyone that trusteth in them." It's interesting to look at the majority of idols around the world, and they look like human beings. Those idols have a body, they have legs and feet, arms and hands, they have a head with eyes and a nose and ears. And yet the psalmist says, "They that make them are like unto them." What does that mean? Well, it means if you worship idols, you tend to become like those idols. In other words, you become spiritually blind, spiritually deaf, and you become worthless because you're worshiping a stone. You're worshiping idols made out of wood, or at times even made out of precious metals like gold. But if you worship the one true and only God, you will tend to become like the one true only God. You see, worshiping God is an evidence of spiritual growth in our lives. Now, let me define worship to you by giving you several statements, all right? Think about worship with me for a moment and ask yourself this question: am I worshiping God? Here's the first thought. Worship is a result of complete focus on God. One of the reasons why there is so little worship taking place among God's people is because they are more focused on the things of the world than they are on God. And when our focus is on other things out there in the world, you will not worship God the way that you should. Worship is a result of us getting our undivided attention, our focus on God, who He is, and what He has done in our lives. Number two, worship is celebrating who God is and what He has done in our lives. When we come together to church on Sunday, we are celebrating who God is and what He has done in our lives. Have you felt like this is a celebration? Have you felt like you've been to a time where we really are excited and passionate about what God has done? You see, we need to understand that worship doesn't have to be dull and boring, but rather it ought to be a celebration of our great God. When you begin to meditate on the person of God and you begin to think about all that He has done in your life since you got saved, you will not be able to contain the praise and the passion that you have for Him.